35 yards. Will Lutz. He's already made 4 today. Lutz in the clutch, and the Broncos have won it.
That is the moment where I felt that shift, that change of guards in the AFC West from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Denver Broncos, when Will Lutz sent that kick through the uprights to secure the Broncos win over the Chiefs. In real time, there's just some moments where you feel a shift and dynamic, and that was absolutely one of them. And I've been one of those guys the past several years. I blindly trust the Chiefs until they prove me wrong. Because, quite honestly, they haven't proved me wrong that much. But at this point, you have the Broncos here sitting at 9-2. They're on an 8-game winning streak, and they have a 2-game lead in the AFC West on the Chargers. I mean, there's no reason to not buy into the belief that this team is going to win the AFC West, and they are absolutely for real. And I've had my concerns about Denver this season. I've had reasons why I haven't completely bought in this entire time, and I'm going to get into that in this video. But at this point, I mean, if you watch football, you have to admit that Denver is the top horse in the AFC West. No pun intended there, and there's a lot that this team is capable of. If you're new here, please subscribe to The Air with Brian Gregoire. We're building this thing brick by brick. It is NFL, college football, and college basketball talk from a business standpoint. So if you're interested in that, please hit that subscribe button and join this community. We'd love to have you. In this video, I'm going to get into what's the recipe for the Broncos' success has been so far this season, and if their destiny here is sustainable. So without further ado, here we go. Let's start with the first ingredients of the Broncos' success. It's this simple. Coaching. Every great culture, every great foundation starts from your head coach. And the Broncos have an elite head coach. And Sean Payton, you can tell year in, year out, he has enhanced the culture within the Broncos building step by step. And this was going to be a long rebuild. It was going to take a while to get to this point, but nonetheless, here we are. It's been his ideas, his philosophy, his way of doing things, the mentality he wants to ingrain in Broncos players that has been the North Star, the compass that has led the Broncos to where they are. Sean Payton, just like he did in New Orleans, he's assembled a phenomenal staff as well. Offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi, defensive coordinator Vance Joseph. They are elite coordinators, and they have both of their respective units operating on close to an optimal level. It's been amazing to see. But success starts with coaching because that's what builds the foundation to success. That's something I love about the Chiefs all these years is their staff. In most games, they have an edge when it comes to staff. I don't think they do when they play the Broncos because this is an elite staff. And in the NFL, it's just challenging to beat teams with elite staffs in general. The Broncos also have a defense that is capable of ultimately winning a championship. I mean, there are some absolute dogs on this defense. Nick Bonito, that guy is incredible. Some of the acquisitions that the Broncos made in the offseason, Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, they've been phenomenal. And shout out to Jaquan McMillan. He has been one of the clutchest defensive players in the entire NFL this season. And he always puts the Broncos in their best positions to win. And think about this too. Alex Singleton, Pat Surtain, they've been out the past several weeks. They're coming back very soon, so this defense is only going to get better. Statistically, listen to some of these numbers because they are mind-blowing. The Broncos have a sack rate over 11% this season, and they have 49 sacks already. It's not even December. This unit has 49 sacks. that's just absolutely mind-blowing. What this Broncos defense does is it coerces opponents to play these physical, tight, low-scoring games that are incredibly marginal. And you almost have to rely on clutch plays in big moments to win, and you have to be able to sustain the Broncos' physicality for 4 quarters. And as we all know, a lot of teams out there are not built to play in those kinds of games. In fact, there's fewer that are than not. So that's a huge advantage for the Broncos. And the Broncos are elite because they're turning into one of those teams where if you play them, you have a slip up in performance the week after you play Denver because you are that physically beat up from playing the Broncos the week before. You know, we've seen that with a lot of very physical defensive teams in the past. Those Niner teams a few years ago, those Steelers and Ravens teams growing up. Teams would play them the week after, they'd be hurting. They'd be feeling it. But the roadmap to beating the Broncos is so incredibly tight and marginal, and you've got to be on your shit, and you can't make errors, mental mistakes, if you want to beat the Broncos, because they're so physical, because these games are close and low scoring. And I know I've given a lot of praise to this Broncos defense because, well, why not? There's an argument for it being best in the league. But I want to hammer down on the fact that there is depth everywhere on this Broncos team. I mean, it's one of those rosters that don't really have many holes at all. Both Cortland Sutton and Troy Franklin have been having great seasons receiving this year. The Broncos' offensive line is arguably the best in the NFL as well. When you have guys like Quinn Miners, Mike McGlinchey, Garrett Bowles. They're playing out of their mind this season. Bo Nix has a clean pocket all the time, and he can sit back there and make the most well-advised reads that he can, and that makes life a lot easier on him. Let's talk about Bo Nix for a second, because I believe there's been upside and downside for him this season. Bo Nix has been one of the clutchest quarterbacks in the entire NFL this season. I mean, when the pressure meter is dialed up, Bo Nix is consistently at his best. However, his downside is that statistically, he's had a lot of slow starts this season, and it's contributed to overall slow starts for the Broncos as well. And that's one of the reasons why I was kind of weary of the Broncos for a while and wasn't willing to trust immediately, because those slow starts were concerning to me. If you look at his stats in the first 3 quarters of a game and compare them to what he does in the fourth quarter, it is mind-blowing, because he has those slow starts, but then his fourth quarters are generational. And so there's inconsistency there, but he has that clutch gene. And so when it comes time for high-pressure moments, you know that's Bo knows. Shout out Bojangles, one of the best chicken shacks in America. But I think that he's a fantastic quarterback who is capable of leading this team to incredible places. Just want to see a little bit more consistency. And my other concern with the Broncos this season, why I wasn't willing to buy in at first, is the penalties. The Broncos statistically are the most penalized team in the NFL. They average 8.5 penalties per game, and that's a huge limitation. After a while, that will make it challenging to win games, because you're constantly having to play from behind the sticks, and you're giving opponents automatic first downs, and that just generally screws with momentum. And so that's something that I hope to see the Broncos improve upon in these weeks to come as well. But the slow starts and the penalties are my 2 concerns with this team. The pathway to success, the pathway to the Broncos' ultimate destiny of going to a Super Bowl and winning it all, is getting that number 1 seed. And right now, they're in a phenomenal position to do so. If you force your AFC opponents to have to go up to Denver in January where it's 23 degrees and it's snowing. There's weird air pressure stuff from the high altitude being a mile high. There's a lot of teams out there that are not built, are not engineered to endure 4 quarters of that. And you're playing, like I said, that Denver Broncos brand of football. Well coached. You're playing one of the best staffs in the NFL. You're playing a physical game. You're playing a low-scoring game, and you can't make mistakes. It's freezing. The conditions are shitty. You're playing at high altitudes. I mean, there are more teams than not that are not built to win in an environment like that. So that is a major advantage for the Broncos, being able to advance in the playoffs. And so if they can get that number 1 seeds, I think that it's realistic for the Broncos to go very far in the playoffs. If they don't, I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to see how that plays out. But if they get that number 1 seed, that is bad news for everybody in the AFC. This team has a nasty defense. It's physical. There's depth everywhere. There's not many things going wrong for the Broncos right now, and it kind of feels like they control their own destiny. The one thing that cannot happen to this team that could potentially derail things is injuries. And when I say that, I'm talking the injury bug. The Broncos have had a few wear and tear injuries like you see happen to any team out there over the course of the season, but it's wear and tear. There's nothing that has directly impacted the performance of this team week in, week out that's happened so far. You look at a team like the Chargers. That's a team that has the injury bug. I mean, that offensive line is completely banged up. Their running back room is completely banged up. And that's why I think that the Broncos are in a much more advantageous position than the Chargers, with them being 2 games up on them. I can't picture many scenarios where the Broncos don't win the AFC West for that reason. But I say it to say, the Broncos cannot catch that injury bug. That's really the only thing that can derail them at this point. But mostly, it's been minor injuries and nothing that's really changed anything for this team. So praise God for that, and let's hope that continues to happen for the Broncos. But I think there's been that change of guard in the AFC West. The Broncos are the team to beat at this point, and this team has an incredibly high ceiling for the remainder of the season. Let me know what y'all think about this take and how far you think the Broncos will make it this season in the comment section below. Thank y'all for watching. Have a great day.